Over 8 million people in the UK live with an anxiety disorder at any given time. Roughly 20% of adults report feeling anxious most or all of the time. Women are more likely to suffer from anxiety than men. Younger people are significantly more likely to suffer from anxiety than older people. These headlines on what we might consider clinically recognizable forms of anxiety are pretty shocking. But the reality is that we are all living in the midst of what commentators describe as ambient anxiety, that persistent background noise of societal unease that can be hard to identify, but which never really goes away. I doubt there is anyone here this morning that is unaffected by this persistent, nagging form of anxiety. Because let's face it, we live in a globalized and highly connected world in which we're continuously exposed to ambient stresses and distresses. War, injustice, polarization, current or impending disaster. The internet, social media, news networks expose us to a continuous diet of global issues and challenges that are not directly happening to us at any one time, but which create an often subconscious feeling of danger or risk. It isn't the sort of direct and immediate threat that triggers that fight or flight response in us, but something more invidious, more subtle, and longer term. We worry. We worry about the climate crisis. We worry about our health and the health of our family. We worry about Ukraine and Gaza and Greenland. We worry about Trump and Putin. We worry about the economy. We worry about whether we have enough money today and whether our money will last until we die. We worry about the state of public services, the NHS, public transport, potholes. We worry. We worry. Which is what makes Jesus' command from the Sermon on the Mount that we just heard particularly hard. Don't worry. And it's not just a suggestion, it's a commandment. In just 9 verses, Jesus asks twice in his usual wonderfully rhetorical way, why on earth humanity worries so much? And 3 times in this passage, he simply employs the imperative, don't worry. It can be hard, I think, for us to take. Don't worry? Really? Jesus, can you not understand what it's like for us down here, surrounded by all these crazy people doing all these utterly crazy things? How do you expect us just to will ourselves out of worry? But of course, Jesus isn't just issuing us with a bold commandment without any sense of practically how to do it. There's so much more that Jesus has to say in this passage and elsewhere in his teaching that can give us some very strong clues about how we might successfully worry less. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Worry is futile, Jesus tells us, utterly, utterly pointless. Instead, Jesus is suggesting, be alive to the present, the here and the now. Focus on the things you can control today rather than the things you can't control tomorrow. And that presentness is something that Jesus modelled extensively throughout his ministry. Now, yes, it's true that Jesus occasionally pointed towards Jerusalem and beyond, but mainly, I think, to equip the disciples for what was to come. And yes, occasionally he reached back into the past, particularly in invoking the prophets. But mostly, as we see particularly in his relationships with the disciples and his pastoral encounters with others, he displays a breathtaking presentness, an unyielding focus on those around him and their needs, an attention to the current task, and a perpetual celebration of the goodness of God in the here and now. And we can do well to apply that within our own lives, being fully present each and every day, not rooted either in the future or the past. Because, of course, if we think about it, there are so many more random, unknown variables in our lives tomorrow than today. The reality is that the brains we carry around with us are, among many other things, highly evolved threat perception engines. It's an important and very helpful function that's kept human beings and our evolutionary predecessors alive for literally millions of years. So yes, we are fabulously well equipped at imagining all sorts of potential threats, many of which will simply never happen. We might think here of the words of American economist Paul Samuelson, who famously lamented that economists had predicted 9 of the last 5 recessions. I'll let that just simmer for you. Rooting ourselves in the here and now can help us to avoid spinning off into doom loops about what the future might hold, and particularly of worrying about outcomes that will simply never occur. But in addition to staying present, we can help to wean ourselves away from worry by holding things loosely rather than gripping hold of them tightly. Remembering that we are stewards rather than proprietors of the resources that God has endowed upon us. This morning's passage from Matthew 6 is immediately preceded by Jesus reminding his disciples, the crowd, and us not to store up treasure, to be generous, and to serve God and not mammon. Now, when we think of ourselves as stewards of all that God has blessed us with, we can learn to hold those things more loosely as a result. It's a term and a learning that I most remember Ruth Dernley using here in St. Mary's. Ruth is a fellow LLM, is married to Mark, who was Sally's predecessor as vicar here. Many of you will know them both. In addition to being an LLM, Ruth, until fairly recently, led a remarkable charity called Stop the Traffic, which employs big data in the fight against human trafficking. It's groundbreaking, highly successful, and fantastically impactful work, making a real systemic difference on a global scale. But that journey to success, particularly financially, was long and incredibly bumpy. In its early years, the charity could frankly have run out of money many, many times. But Ruth was constant in her belief that she had to hold that charity loosely rather than tightly. Now, it wasn't that she didn't care if it succeeded or failed, quite the opposite. But she recognized that if it didn't come off, it wouldn't be the result of any lack of effort or achievement by her or her team. She recognized simply that she couldn't control every outcome, and that she had to accept and indeed embrace that lack of control. Because ultimately our anxiety, or otherwise, is a function of our trust in God. In the words of Tim Keller, worry is looking out at the world and being afraid that God isn't going to get it right. You're filled with anxiety because you think life is up to you. You're trying to take the place of God, but you are unqualified for the job. And anyone who is in a job they are unqualified for feels really weird. Ultimately, we step away from anxiety by ignoring those worldly narratives of scarcity and risk and loss, and allowing ourselves to be drawn by God into a kingdom of abundance and hope and trust. Now, that's not easy. We are both societally conditioned and evolutionally hardwired to focus on threat. Jesus knew that, I think. He knows that our human wiring makes it harder for us to trust God than it is for the birds of the air or the flowers in the field. It's why his words are so rhetorically powerful for his disciples and for us today. But trust we must in God's providence for us today and tomorrow, and of course in the ultimate victory that has already been won for us through the cross. Because as Paul wrote to the Romans in the reading we heard earlier, our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. We can live joyfully and trustingly and fearlessly in the present, quite simply because God, through Christ, has the future well and truly sorted. Don't worry. Amen.
I was sharing about being in school on Tuesday when we were singing Hosanna. Do Not Be Afraid was the other song that the head put on. And it was beautiful because the children had all come in and were singing loudly and then sang that song very beautifully. And it actually made me want to tell them about Helen Biggs. You heard that Helen died in the very early hours of Monday morning, very peacefully, on Candlemas. So last week we celebrated Candlemas on Sunday, but it was actually Monday. So those words of, Lord, now let us thy servant depart in peace, were just sort of so poignant for the day that she went back to be with her Lord. And it was that essence of, do not be afraid. Helen wasn't afraid at all in that last month when she was in the hospice, she wasn't afraid. And she knew she was called by God, her name, as each of us are as well. So it just felt a very precious moment to be able to share that with them. And I'd forgotten that there's one family in school. So it's actually Wendy Lewis's grandchildren are there. Helen looked after Miles when he was a young boy, and so they knew Helen and sort of were apparently able then to go out and go, we knew her, we knew all about her. So it's such a beautiful song. So lots to be sharing with you, so I'm sorry, I'm madly finding my update again. I put it all together, but I can never remember what's there. This week, fairly straightforward. One of the things that I'd put on for happening this week was that toilet repair work was going to happen on Tuesday. It's not, it's going to happen on Friday. So it means the toilets will be out of use. And we're going to be saying every prayer that the work is done on Friday and finished so that they'll be in use next weekend. So we will wait and see. Various things happening this afternoon. Tim is leading a walk so across to Western Turville. No, you're not going to Western Turville. That was last one. Right, sort of round the bottom of the Halton camp. So if you want to do the walk, meet at the clock tower at 2:00. A week tomorrow is when Matthew is being installed and inducted as the rector of Ellsborough, Kimble and the Stoke Mandeville. And Michael Hunt will be licensed to work with him. So I think it's going to be a very full church, but you are welcome. So if you'd like to go, that's at 7:30 next Monday. Then next Tuesday, it will be Shrove Tuesday, pancake party, 10 till 12. Jack needs help for people to come and be around because it's half term. So we suspect there'll be lots of people. And he needs pancakes. So if you're able to make pancakes, can you talk to him afterwards? Next Wednesday, the 18th, is Ash Wednesday. So if we could have your palm crosses, please. There's a few at the back already. You can bring them to church. You can drop them in the shop. If you walk down Dobbins Lane, you can pop them through the vicarage door. And then we burn those to make the ash for Ash Wednesday. Lots of pleas for help. One from Pete and Catherine for somebody to lock up on a Sunday evening. The person who's been doing that is no longer able to. So it's usually about 6:00 on a Sunday evening. If anybody thinks that they could do that or wants to partner with somebody to be doing that, could you talk to Pete or be in touch with Catherine? Then, two from Jack. Beginning in March, we're going to be running a parenting course up at the junior school and some help needed with the creche that will run alongside it and somebody who could be a future facilitator of that course. So you want to know more, again, have a word with Jack and he can tell you what it's about. And then you remember last summer we had 3 days of a holiday club. We're wanting to do something similar, to run Shine again, and need to be building up a body of volunteers that can be involved in that. So, let's say 2 asks from Jack. Please, can you be helping so that we know that we can be running these things? Jack's about to send off a report to the Development Fund, the people who are funding half of this work, and all sorts of positives are in it. In fact, Jack, I think we'll probably need to put highlights of that into the update. I know you're hearing things of what Jack's doing, but when you actually see it all written down, it's amazing that it must be about a year roundabout now that we actually interviewed Jack and appointed him. So we see there's lots been going on. So, brilliant work. Another thing is, on the 14th of June, there is going to be a confirmation, a deanery confirmation, so with other churches around. Bishop Dave will come somewhere. I can't tell you at the moment which church it will be held at. But if there's anybody who wants to be confirmed, to make that commitment for yourselves. So confirmation is confirming the responses that were made for you when you were baptized. If you weren't baptized, we can baptize you before you're confirmed. But if anybody wants to do that, then please have a word with me or get in touch, and we'll gather people together to do some preparation work before that. I think that's a lot of what was there. So, lots happening, and particularly as we go into Lent. I know the other thing that was on there is about the Come and See course, the course that Bishop Stephen has developed, all about the Eucharist, about communion. Sunday by Sunday we'll be preaching. Thursday mornings we'll be actually using the bishop's videos and having discussions. So again, there's details there in the update.
So much noise, so many voices, pulling us forward, pulling us back. Breathe in this moment, stand where you are. Enough for today is here, not far. Open hands, loosen grip, trust the ground under every step.